Let's just agree that this is it. Portland, Maine, I don't know where that is. Leave your bags in the car, keep it running. I won't pretend that I want these things. But Portland, Maine, I don't know where that is. And I don't wanna know. I don't wanna know.
Happy Friday, it's Morning Coffee and I'm Rick Alexander. It's the weekend, which of course you're not judging as good or bad, you're just appreciating for what is. But truly, I mean, you got 48 hours, you can do whatever you want with it. You can anesthetize yourself from your life, or you can plan a life that you don't want to escape from, and both of those are completely open and available to you. I do understand, however, that a lot of what I say is much easier said than done. Don't take for granted the fact that I put out a lot of information for the fact that I think that it's easy, because truthfully, getting to the level of growth that I've gotten into in my life has been one of the most excruciating, exhaustive processes of my entire life. I've questioned everything I've ever believed. And somehow I've come out on the other end of it really, really fucking happy. And I just want that for you as well. Not that I'm always happy, but that I have a level of understanding in my life that at least breeds contentment, that at least I feel safe enough that I can go out and explore from, and I can create from, and I can create my life from. So yes, you have 48 hours. You can do whatever you want with those 48 hours. I do understand that you have very real limiting beliefs and very real limiting factors and variables in your life that make doing that extremely difficult. But I do want you to know that I understand the difficulty despite the simplicity of my message. Today I want to talk to you about something that I would consider to be probably the most beneficial advice that I could give you. And maybe I just think it's the most beneficial because it's the one I'm giving you right now. But truly, I think if you understand this concept, you can change your entire life. But before we get into it, I do want to say that mid-October, I'm launching the next online Clarity Academy cohort. So if you've been following along, thinking about doing it, you want to do it before the end of the year, this might be a good time to do it. Then you can go into the beginning of next year with a really good picture of who you are and what you really want out of your life. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a DM at @RickAlexander_ or at the Morning Coffee Podcast, and I can add you to the list of people who are interested and then give you, of course, all of the new information as it comes out. And of course, if you do the Clarity Academy, you have lifetime access to material. So everybody that I've been putting through it has access to the new and improved versions. And of course, I'm always evolving it to make sure that it meets your needs better. But that's enough about that. And so the life-changing advice that I want to give to you today is that you should seek to sit with and understand the parts of you that would be perfectly happy to wreck what it is that you love. And of course, we all have these parts of us. That's why self-sabotage is a thing, and we talk about it as if it's a thing because it's something that you'll do. Now, most of the time, what happens is when something comes up in our psyche that's not pleasing to us, like perhaps the side of you that would wreck something that you love, we want to brush it under the rug and sweep it outside of our awareness. Only the problem is whatever we bury will always resurface, and it will resurface with a vengeance if we're not careful, because it's being motivated by something. And so you have to understand the motivation that's driving the behavior that's ruining your life if you actually want to change it. Because the truth is, you don't have to be in an adversarial relationship with yourself. You're not against yourself in some way. You don't have to overcome yourself in some way. What you have to understand is that you want certain things for your life, but you have to make sure that all of the motivations and needs and parts of your characteristics and personality that you've neglected up until now can actually be met. Bring more of you into the light. Don't push more of you into the darkness, because when you push more of you into the darkness, that's when we end up acting on and doing things that we look back and we're like, why the hell would I have ever done that? See, that's what you have to understand about yourself. Why would you have done that? Why would you wreck the things that you've built? Why would you wreck the relationship with the person that you love the most? Because there are parts of you that you need to acknowledge in order to bring everything into the light. One of the things that might happen is your ego, after you're in a relationship for a certain amount of time, might start to feel like it hasn't been validated enough. Now, your ego is just patterns of old thought and behavior. And so if you take your awareness off of what you're doing and you slip back into old patterns of thought and behavior, your ego might be in a position where it's like it needs to be more validated. And so perhaps maybe what you've understood to be true is that if you could sleep with more people, that gives you validation in your life. And so maybe you're with someone that you really love, but maybe your ego is desiring validation in a different way. And so you have to sit with and meditate on this idea. Why are you having the urges that you're having to do the things that you're doing? You can sweep it under the rug if you want to, but that's not going to make the urge go away. You have to satisfy the motivation. And so a lot of times for me, what it is it is a thought pattern or behavior that stems from ego. And so when I feel things coming up in my life that would normally wreck my life, and let's say years in the past I would have actually allowed to wreck my life, I actually just sit with now. I make it an intention when I go into yoga. I set it as an intention when I meditate. And I just think on like, what is going on? Why am I feeling this drive? Another way that I've done this a lot is the way that I eat. I eat in such a self-destructive way. I had to sit with and figure out what in the hell is going on with me. Why would I feel the need to make myself feel like I don't want to feel? It's such an insane thing to do that humans have to cope with. Insane, be that as it may, you're human, and so you have to deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, it will ruin your life. And most of us end up just ruining our lives. And then we look back and we say, well, how the hell did all of that happen? Well, because you have motivations and you have drives that you are just not aware of and you're not sitting with, you're not giving the time of day. And a lot of times it's a matter of untangling certain desires and motivations, and you realize like certain desires can actually be met in other non-self-destructive ways. You just have to figure out and outline those ways. Like what need might not be getting met in your life right now that is starting to manifest in a self-sabotaging or self-destructing way. That happens all the time. So when I say seek to understand the parts of you that would wreck what you love, I don't just mean acknowledge that they're there. I mean seek to understand why you're driven toward what you're driven toward. Because if you can understand the motivation, if you can understand what am I really after right now? I noticed it a lot when I was fasting. Like I had a desire for candy or for something with sugar in it when I would go into the store. And so I would sit with that desire and I would say, well, what's going on here? Is it just a dopamine loop? Because if it's just a dopamine loop and it's not actually serving me, then the best thing I could do is not to satisfy that desire or that need, because that's going to basically fall into this self-destructive behavior pattern. And a lot of times what I understand, because you've done so much self-destructive shit in your life, is you can actually take a step back and just look, hey, if I go ahead and I act on what I'm feeling right now, on this urge or this impulse, what is the end result going to be? A lot of times if I just identify the end result, i.e., if I eat this sugar, I'm going to fall on my diet. If I hook up with this person I like, I'm going to ruin my relationship. Whatever it is that you're about to do, think through. You've probably done it a million times in your life before. Think through where that's going to land you, and then ask yourself, do you really want to live in that world that you're about to be in if you go ahead and act on whatever self-destructive behavior you're thinking about acting on? And so if you can get to the end in mind, then you can really change how you're thinking about it. And I think that's where all of this actually matters. So seek to understand those parts of you. Bring the stuff that you're not proud of into the light so that you can understand it, so that you can change it, so that you don't end up having your life driven by motivations that exist in the shadows, because that's how we end up looking around and not knowing why we're doing what we're doing or how our life got to be the way that it is. And look, you understand this. There's a lot of things that you let yourself do that you should not be doing. And so bring those into the light, identify them, meditate on them, sit with them, ask yourself why it's a thing. And just in doing that, you can begin to disarm them and change your life. Again, this is probably one of the most beneficial pieces of advice that I've ever gotten. Whenever I feel an urge to destroy my life, which I've done over and over, I sit with where that urge is going to land me ultimately. And then I ask myself if that's really what I want. And then maybe how might I meet this desire or motivation that I'm feeling in a different, more productive way. I think that's reparenting, and that's change, that's growth, that's the real work. So hopefully this weekend, if you get a moment, just sit in silence and ask yourself, 1, what are you doing now that might be really ruining your life? But 2, why are you doing it? Get to the bottom of that, and then where is it going to lead? What's going to happen if you actually go through with the things that you want to go through with? This can be life-changing advice if you really sit with it and understand it enough in your own life and the way that it shows up. But hope you guys have an amazing weekend. I love y'all. We'll talk on Monday on Morning Coffee.
Baby girl, you know my situation, and sometimes I know you get impatient, but you don't put on a show to get ovations. Take it to court and go through litigations. And I respect your gangster, treat you like a princess and put some on your neck to thank you. She's my pinch hitter. When the starting lineup ain't playing right, I come off the bench with her. It might sound like I'm gassing ya, but it takes time to get from the backseat to the passenger. We've been creeping and sneaking just to keep it from leaking. We so deep in our freaking and we don't sleep on the weekend. Wifey's a little bit uptight, wonder why I keep coming home in the middle of the night. It'll be alright, if y'all bump heads it'll be a fight, but I said it'll be alright, come on.
I really wanna be with you, wanna be real with you. I can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go. You're the one I want in my life, already got a wife. Can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go.
You ain't never step out of line or get out of pocket, so I made sure canary sit out your locket to protect you. I get out and cock it, and you know the barrel of my gun is big enough to spit out a rocket. Oh, you gon' play dumb if cops do come through. I gotta keep the top up if my drop do come through. But I know the boutiques and shops you run through, so I cop her one and cop you one too. You always get a daily page, weekly ring. Plus you ain't too shy to do them freaky things. I ain't gotta put a band on your finger. I worry about you telling the whole world I'm your man while I'm Springer. At first you was something I denied, something I would slide just to do something in the ride. But shorty, it's something you provide, cause the entree ain't as good without something on the side, you know.
I really wanna be with you, wanna be real with you. I can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go. You're the one I want in my life, already got a wife. Can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go.
I might be leaving the earth soon. My girl gon' kill me if she smell a scent of your perfume. It's gon' be a clip toss if I go back with stains of your lip gloss on my throwback. She won't care if I'm a platinum rapper, if she catch me with an empty Magnum wrapper. So keep it on the down low, call the car seller. You seen what happened with Mr. Big and R. Kelly.
You know I care for you. Anytime this chick is there for you. These feelings I wanna share with you, which makes it a little more clear for you.
I really wanna be with you, wanna be real with you. I can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go. You're the one I want in my life, already got a wife. Can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go. Really wanna be with you, gotta be real with you. I can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go. You're the one I want in my life, already got a wife. Can't leave you alone, and I know I'm living wrong, but I can't let you go.